get a little bit of a different setup. So it's the end of 2019, and it's time to go over my personal top 10 favorite movies of the year. Few things to note: I have not seen every movie this year. So if there's a movie that doesn't come up on this list that you think probably should be, chances are I didn't see it. Another thing to note is that these are just my personal top 10 favorite movies. This isn't really an objective kind of list. This is my personal pick of the crop. And I think last year I did a worst 10 films of like 2018. I'm not going to be doing that for 2019. Mainly because while other movie reviewers on YouTube get to actually be paid to review movies, I don't get paid, so I have to be careful of how I spend my money. So that being said, this is my top 10 favorite movies of 2019. At number 10, Fighting with My Family. This came out in February, I believe, and it's the biopic of Paige, WWE wrestler. It's a really fun and just a really fun movie to watch. I mean, there's some funny moments, some good dramatic moments too. Honestly, I don't really know much else of how to explain just why I like it so much. I mean, with any top 10 movie list, it's going to be like a movie or two someone puts on there. They just don't really know how to explain how it ended up there. I mean, I have this on Blu-ray. I really like this movie. But yeah, that's number 10. Now let's move on to number 9. Marriage Story, a Netflix original movie. It stars Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. It's a couple that's separated and going through a divorce. That may not seem like the most interesting story for a movie, but it actually really is. I mean, you really feel for these characters, and there are some intense emotional moments in this movie. And it also reminds me of just how great of an actor Adam Driver is, and just how great Scarlett Johansson is in general. I mean, she's finally getting her Black Widow solo movie, but this is an actress that really should be remembered for being a good actress other than just being the woman character from the Avengers movies. Anyway, let's move on to number 8. Knives Out. Knives Out is the original movie idea from Rian Johnson, who you might know as the director of The Last Jedi, as well as the director of Looper. Knives Out is an original murder mystery story in the same vein and style as an Agatha Christie story. There are a lot of fun and interesting characters in this movie, two of which are Chris Evans and Daniel Craig's characters. I don't remember their names, mainly because Daniel Craig's character's name is just a little hard to pronounce, but it's a pretty funny but also dramatic movie with a good mystery attached to it. So yeah, guys should really check that movie out if you want to watch movies that are original ideas, even though they are heavily inspired by certain other kinds of stories. Now let's move on to number 7. John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. The John Wick franchise has been a surprise hit. When the first movie came out in 2014, everyone ended up talking about it. Then in 2017, we got Chapter 2, which was just as popular. And now Chapter 3, it's still as intense, and not more intense than ever. Keanu Reeves proves he is the gun fu action badass that he deserves to be known as. With a good way of telling its story through minimal dialogue and visuals, it's a really fun and intense movie to watch. Now, the number 6 movie, Avengers Endgame. I know I have Disney Plus, but I have to own this. Avengers Endgame is the epic finale to the Infinity Saga, the story that Marvel Studios has been telling for over a decade now. Is Endgame a perfect movie? Not exactly, but honestly, it does so much that it honestly deserves that. Doesn't really matter in the long run because it does a lot to honor and close out the Infinity Saga in the best way it can. And it is a really fun and epic movie to watch too. It's not, like I said, it's not a flawless film, but It is a very unique film that honestly doesn't come around so often that it's really worth checking out. Now let's move on to number 5, El Camino. El Camino is the movie sequel to Breaking Bad we never knew we wanted, but it was actually kind of needed. So you see, Breaking Bad ended on a very good finale, although there was one question: whatever happened to Jesse after he drove off away after being finally free? Well, this movie directly answers that, and it is sort of like an anti-Endgame in a way, where there are some similarities, but it's a very small in scale size movie that's actually pretty quiet in terms of like the loud action of Endgame, and is really more of a character piece. And it's just so great in the way it's presented, taken after a lot of Western styles. It's really a kind of emotional movie in a way. Now let's move on to number 4, Us. Us is the sophomore film effort from Jordan Peele after his directorial debut in 2017, Get Out. There are some similar themes vaguely in Us, but this is its very own thing. And personally, I like this more than Get Out in a few different ways. I already talked about this movie a little bit, but it has its own ideas and themes that are definitely very well worth exploring. That is sort of like a contrast to Get Out. If Get Out is about the darkness and evil of strangers, this movie is the darkness and evil of ourselves. It is a very engaging movie that definitely should be watched if you can. Weird way of saying that, but whatever. Let's move on to number 3, The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is from Robert Eggers. If that name is familiar, you might know his film The Witch back in 2015. This is another horror movie from that director and writer, with really only 2 actors in the film, William Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. And it's more of a psychological thriller, but there might be some supernatural stuff going on. Honestly, when you go into this movie, you think it's going to be one thing, but there's just so much subtlety and so many layers to this movie that it can honestly be dissected for years and maybe even decades to come. It takes from some popular movies of recent decades, like The Shining, while also taking inspiration from some classic, timeless Greek mythology tales. It is a very complex movie that, again, is a kind of movie that only comes around once in a while. So you gotta grab this one if you can. And if you're interested to see what Robert Pattinson can do with a role like Batman, this is a pretty good indicator of what he can do. Let's move on to number 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Everyone loves a Quentin Tarantino film, and I don't have the DVD for this one yet, but when I do get it, I will get it. You know what I mean. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood takes place in the 1960s, focused on Cliff and God damn it, Cliff. Fuck it. It's focused on 2 characters played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, taking place in the late 1960s, from the transition of like old Hollywood to new Hollywood, and about the changes in their lives respectively. And this movie also has Sharon Tate as a character in the movie. And while her story does play a part in this movie, it's really focused on the buddy dynamic of these 2 characters by DiCaprio and Pitt. And it's a movie that doesn't really have that much of a driving plot, but it's just so fun, and you are so engaged with the movie that you don't really care. It's just a movie that definitely you should watch. Basically, all these movies are movies you should watch, but you know what I mean. Now let's get to the number 1 movie of my personal pick of this year, Joker. Yes, you probably knew this movie was going to come up one way or another. Joker takes a different kind of route in terms to how other comic book movies are made. It has a low budget, a hard R rating. It has a director that's transitioning from more comedic movies to a much more serious and dramatic movie starring a actor who has been offered comic book movie roles in the past but hasn't until now. And he's a very much more character centered actor. And it's focused on a super villain. I mean, I know Suicide Squad is technically a villain movie, but this is a hardcore super villain, guys. And it's presented in such a realistic, grounded, gritty, dark way that there is so much complexity and different meanings and layers to this movie that people keep coming back to this movie despite what their personal opinion on the movie is, whether they love it, hate it, or one of the few in between. In a year where some people are claiming that movies just don't have that much of a lasting impact, Joker definitely has that lasting impact. And this is a movie that people are going to continuously go back to for years and years to come. So, yeah, those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2019. And in case I don't see you guys before the turn of the new year, depending on when I upload this video, I hope you guys have a happy new year in 2020. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys next time.